Warning, the global central planners tell us what comes next. Are you paying attention and are you prepared? Now, the world has been taken over by central planners that want to plan every area of your life, including what you eat, how you fill up your car with gas, and every other detail. Now, some of you may not be paying attention or you may not be reading between the lines to see what's really happening, but they're telling us exactly what's happening. We're seeing it happen all over the world. But are you being prepared? Now, in this video, I'm gonna break down some things that the mainstream media is not paying attention to. They're not showing you. And if you're not listening to what they're telling you and watching what's going on and connecting the dots, then unfortunately, you may not make it, as we say. Now, you know, I've been talking a lot about these 3 revolutionary cycles that are converging that tell us how we got here, what's going on, and where we're going. We're gonna look at that. We're gonna look at what's going on, and I'm gonna give you some practical tips of what you need to be doing sooner than later. And warning, some of this is graphic, so let's go. All right, welcome back. If you're new to the channel, my name is Mark Moss, and I make these videos to change the way you think about money because almost everything you've learned is wrong. And today we are looking at it from a much bigger lens, a geopolitical lens, a 250-year cycle lens, because things are getting crazy. And that's why I put warning at the intro of this. Now, I do also want to warn that I'm going to go over some stuff that YouTube may not like. And I'm getting a little bit close to the edge. I know a lot of you leave me comments and warn me, hey, be careful, Mark. So I'm putting a link to my newsletter. You can just sign up for free. Just throw your email in there. I can send you more tips about what we're going to talk about today. And just in case I disappear, you can find me. Also, I have a new YouTube channel under Market Disruptors where I'm putting daily news. So if you want to keep up on everyday shorter videos that are topical, I'm putting in there every day, Market Disruptors. We'll put a link to that down below. And just throw your email into my email list and I'll keep you up to date on what's going on just in case something happens. Also, by the way, I'm working really hard to bring this information to you that mainstream media is not giving you. And so YouTube may try to shadow ban this, and the way that we can combat that is by clicking on that like button, click on that subscribe button, and YouTube will show it to more people. All right, now let's go ahead and jump into this video. Now, just to set the stage a little bit, I've talked a lot about this. If you're a regular viewer of the channel, then you might have heard me talking about something called peak centralization. I've been talking about the blow-off top of centralization. So a blow-off top is something that happens in a market. If you look at the dot-com boom, the Bitcoin boom, something like that, and the markets kind of go up slowly, but as they start going up, they get into this parabolic phase right here where the market starts sucking in more and more people. And then at the very top, it gets volatile like this, and then it crashes back down. You've probably seen that chart before, Amazon in 2000, most of the dot-com in 2000, Bitcoin, etc. And then it slowly kind of starts going like that. So it's the blow off top, and as it sucks more people in, it gets very volatile at the top, and that's exactly what's happening socially. All right, so as you see this chart, we can see that the world is basically like a pendulum that swings back and forth on a 250-year time frame, and it swings from peak centralization and swings back to decentralization. This is very important to understand because it sets the frame to show you, gives you the context of what's going on in the world today, but more importantly, where we're headed. So you can see on a 250-year time frame, here we are today. 250 years ago was the American Revolution, the French Revolution, pushing back on the centralization of the monarchy, setting up a decentralized government, the United States, a republic. 250 years before that was the Protestant Reformation, etc. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this chart, but there's 3 revolutionary cycles that are converging at the same time: 250-year political, 80-year financial, and a 50-year technological revolution cycle. Editor, go ahead and link up the playlist here if you want to watch some videos that break that down. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. I've done a lot of talks on this, so we'll link up the playlist. I've been on a lot of other shows, The Threat of Peak Centralization with Mark, like What Bitcoin Did. We did a 2-part series. We're about to do the 3rd one. But we can see what's happening. The central planners are planning, and their planning leads to shortages because they don't have enough data, enough input that the free market would have. And so it always leads to problems and shortages. Of course, we see all over the world soaring food, fuel, ramp up social unrest. Now, there's a social unrest risk, they're saying, but we're already seeing it. I'm going to break this down for you for emerging markets. So it's already become a very big problem. And we can see here, this is from just a few weeks ago, Fact Box. This is on Reuters. Surging food prices fuel protests across developing world. Now, Depends on what your definition of developing is. And again, your mainstream media is not bringing this to you, so I'm going to show this to you. And even more, so we have the central planning leading to shortages. We have these protests, which lead to revolutions accelerating. So we're seeing governments being toppled and overthrown all around the world, and bigger dominoes are starting to fall. It looks like Japan and Europe are on the brink right now. And then on top of it, we have the deglobalization or the decentralization of the BRICS nations. I've covered this. The BRICS are Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, but more and more countries are joining the BRICS. As a matter of fact, now we have Iran, we have Argentina, and the BRICS now make up about half of the population of the world, which is a pretty big deal. And it says it's a mortal threat to the West. So basically what we're trying to show is that peak centralization is here and the pendulum is swinging back. We're seeing it all over the world. Okay, now central planners, they continue to grasp for control. So as things are starting to break apart, they're losing control. The internet has caused some of this to really accelerate because they've lost the narrative. They try to tell you what to think, what to believe. However, there's small little channels like myself giving you information. There's much bigger channels like the Joe Rogans, etc., and they just can't control it. So they're trying to hang on whatever they can, but they're losing control. They've lost control. And so what they're really doing is they're starting to attack information, but they're attacking money and energy. All right, we know that because we were told this was their game plan from a long time ago. Here's a quote from Henry Kissinger. It was a warning. Who controls the food supply controls the people. So the government wants to keep controlling the food supply. I'm going to show you exactly how they're doing that in a minute. We'll talk about some tips that you should be taking right now just in case. Who controls the energy controls the whole continent. And so of course ESG, getting rid of fossil fuels, don't have any clean nuclear energy. Anyway, we want to control the energy. And then who controls the money controls the world. Of course, we're seeing all the bonds, all the other countries' currencies dropping like flies, the dollar's remaining strong, potentially a CBDC coming, central bank digital currency. So this was the game plan. Food, energy, money. Food, energy, money. Let's keep an eye on that. And now we can see, of course, peak centralization, the UN and the World Economic Forum, fostering effective energy, what? A transition. They want to transition us into an energy that they can only manufacture and control. Remember, control the energy. And so instead of having cheap, abundant energy where everybody has access to cheap, abundant energy and life can flourish, they want to transition us into a very expensive, unreliable form of energy that they can control. All right. Now, even if you object to those statements I make, doesn't change the fact that they are trying to control the energy. All right, we can see here Davos 22, again, World Economic Forum. We're in the middle of the first global energy crisis. Here's how we can fix it. Give us control. If you just give us control, things will go better, because for the last 200 years, when the world flourished and we had more people come out of poverty than any other time in all of human history, more flourishment when nobody controlled energy was good, and the more control they get, you see how things are going. But it's not just the energy, it's not just the money, it's also the food. So now, supposedly cows that have been on the earth as long as humans are bad for the environment, I guess. And so now New Zealand announces the world's first plan to tax cow and sheep burps. New Zealand wants to get rid of cows, and now in the Netherlands they want to get rid of cows. They want to limit what you can grow, all of these things. And so again, control the energy, control the food. How do they control the food? Well, one, they start with the money aspect, and we're seeing it just continue to escalate. We can see here during a press conference at Brampton Shipping Company today, the reporter said to share concerns with truckers hurting over high fuel prices. She responds that high fuel prices are a, quote, reminder of why climate action is so important. And so if you don't give us control over your energy, over your fuel, then the whole world's going to be destroyed because of climate change. And so you can see they're starting to angle all of this stuff to give us control over the food, money, and the energy. That's what's happening. And it's all coming to a head right now. At the peak of the centralization, the pendulum is swinging back, and we're seeing it. So what is the pushback? Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So the more they lose control, the more they try to hang on. But the more they try to hang on, the more people push back. The more people push back, the more they try to hang on, which again goes back to this blow off top right here. And it gets very volatile at the top before it ultimately crashes down. So we can see this. People are pushing back against central planning. Why? Because it is failing. It's failing radically. Now remember, we've seen the greatest era of prosperity the world has ever seen for the last couple hundred years. Why does it have to end? Why can't we just go? Well, because they want to have control over food, money, and energy. So what we can see here, this is Eurasia, so this is the European landmass. What we can see here is the price of energy going up like crazy. Does that look like it's sustainable? No. Why? Because the more they try to control it, the more expensive it gets because of the shortages that we have. And that is leading to lots of pushback. So we have lots of examples of this over the last week. If you haven't been paying attention, or if you've only been paying attention to mainstream media, you've missed what's going on with the tractor protests. We're talking about what's going on with the Dutch in the Netherlands. Now, what they are doing is protesting the government taking away their food and their livelihood. So at a time where the world is facing famine, where the UN is saying that almost a billion people could starve to death, at that time in Holland, they're saying that you can't grow the food anymore. And we'll have you know that Holland, the Netherlands, is one of the main exporters of food to the rest of the world. So at a time when we're short on energy, they want to restrict energy even more. At a time when we're short on food, they want to restrict food even more. Wouldn't you think, at a time when the global famine has increased by a measure of 300% over the last 2 years, started with the pandemic, wouldn't you think they'd try to get more food out there, not less? But of course, that's not what they're doing, and it's led to the tractor protests going over in the Netherlands. This makes the trucker convoy look like child's play. Just look at the amount of tractors that are lined up there. Good luck with the Netherlands and their tow trucks, because you ain't getting all those out of there. Of course, as they've been pushing back, it's led to tensions getting really, really high. We can see right here, they were shooting at people that were not complying. All right, I told you, warning, this gets a little bit graphic. I'm not gonna play all this stuff because my channel could get in danger. If you wanna help me get this out, you can hit that like button, subscribe button, leave a comment, something like that to help the algorithm send it to more people, because they're not gonna like this. Now, you can go find all this on your own. If you know what to look for, go use DuckDuckGo, don't use Google. Go on to Twitter, you can find it all there. But it says that police were opening fire on Dutch protesters. It was a 16-year-old boy, I believe, driving a tractor, and they literally were opening fire, not protecting their own lives. He wasn't trying to run them over. He was fleeing from them, and they were shooting at him. That's how they're dealing with this, and it's escalating. The Dutch are not playing around. Here we have the Dutch farmers have purchased a tank to use to block distribution centers. So now the Dutch have blocked the highways, they've now blocked the airports, the fishermen have blocked the harbors. They said, look, you want to take away our ability to make food, produce food, feed our families, have our livelihood, produce food for the rest of the world? Then fine, we'll shut it all down, and that's what's happening. Now, I'm not commenting on that exactly, but you understand what's going on. All right, but look, this is a global phenomenon. Peak centralization, the pendulum is swinging back. Peak centralization, central planners of the entire world, and it's failing everywhere. So we showed you Holland. Oh, we have it over here. This is Ecuador. Like I said, we have protests that are happening all around the world. Again, warning, this is graphic. We have wars, protests are spiking, prices are spiking. How spiraling inflation is setting the world on fire. Prices are out of control. Why? The central planning over the money. Turns out you just can't create unlimited amounts of money out of thin air. Turns out when you do that, it pushes prices really high because you have more money chasing limited amounts of goods and services. Then, on top of that, you restrict the goods and services by telling people you can't make food anymore, you can't make energy, so you're printing money and you're restricting, so you're increasing demand and you're restricting supply. What do you think happens? Oh, that's right, prices go up, and it's setting the world on fire, as you can see in that headline. In Ecuador, 32%, 1 in 3 people in Ecuador live in extreme poverty. When I say extreme poverty, that's less than $3 a day. Now, I'm in America. You can't even go to Starbucks and get a cup of coffee for $3 a day. But yet over 1 in 3 people in Ecuador live on less than $3 a day. And they're demanding the government do something. They want fuel subsidies. They want price controls because they don't understand that that just causes even more problems. We can see Ecuador is at a standstill after 2 weeks of protests over the cost of living crisis. Turns out humans can take a lot. They can deal with a lot, but when they can't afford to eat, and more even specifically feed their family, they're going to get crazy. You can see them in the streets right here. This is happening all over the world right now. We can see here breaking protests in Ecuador continue due to rising fuel costs and inflation. The crowds can't take it anymore. They can't afford to live. We can see right here another chart. Ecuador poverty rate explodes. Here was 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Look at the rate of growth that we have in poverty. It's only getting worse. The world is breaking apart. Sri Lanka, Ghana, Peru, we can keep going all around the world. In Sri Lanka, the government defaulted on their bonds, so governments take debt, obviously, they issue bonds for that debt, and the government defaulted on that debt. So guess what happens? Nobody else wants to loan money to Sri Lanka. Guess what happens next? Sri Lanka has no money. Well, what happens next? Well, turns out they have no money. They can't get any more oil. They can't get any more energy. They can't get any more food. So the people are starving to death over there. In Sri Lanka, we saw inflation has gone up by more than 110%. Now, if you're good at math, that means that your purchasing power was basically wiped out. This is Steve Hanke. He put together his own inflation metrics right here. This is as of June 30th. And what we can see here, Zimbabwe is up 426% inflation. 426%. We see Sri Lanka 117, Turkey 108, Venezuela 90, Cuba 85, Lebanon 80, Argentina 53, Pakistan 40, Iran 40. We can go on. Everything's over 30% inflation in a year. Some of this is over 100% in a year. That means all your money, all your purchasing power is gone in less than a year. Do you understand what that means? And then if you have no purchasing power, oh yeah, it turns out you can't get any food or energy, which of course leads to people not being very happy. In Peru, you can see they've had massive protests going on there. They've had to deal with curfews. To get a little illustration as how bad this really is, look at this. It's the fastest Peruvian inflation they've had since the 90s, and you can see how far this has taken off. It had stayed pretty flat, and it has just accelerated. To get a little bit better chart, we can see this is in Sri Lanka. And so look at the prices. They've kind of remained pretty stable, sitting on this line right here at about 5%. And look at that. They went from being able to live to not being able to live anymore. We don't need to pull that one up. We can see this one right here. This is in Ghana, breaking due to soaring prices of fuel, food, and a high cost of living. Again, what do they control? The food, the energy, and the money. Controlling the money has pushed the prices of food and energy up. You see that? Food and energy, food and energy, food and energy. The two things that you need to live. Turns out you don't need an iPhone or a MacBook or even the internet to live, but you do need food and you do need energy, and it's the supply or the control over the money and control over the energy and the food that have caused the problems. Here in Italy, the taxi drivers are on the hunt for politicians that are trying to enter parliament in Rome. The patience of the Italian people is over. In Italy, we're talking about Italy, we're talking about Greece, we're talking about Spain. We're not just talking about third world countries here. All right, now, what's happening is the peak centralization is maxed out. The pendulum is swinging back. We are starting to see the entire world start to deglobalize. The world is starting to break apart. The financial system is starting to break apart. And we're seeing, because of this, countries are now starting to halt exports. So each country says, well, I need to hang on to what I have. So, for example, Russia exports fertilizer, potash fertilizer. Turns out the world needs that, but Russia doesn't want to get rid of it. Well, China also has phosphate fertilizer. Well, they don't want to get rid of that either, right? And so each country wants to hang on to what they have, and now they want to hang on to their food. We better hang on to our food. We better hang on to our energy, because there's not enough to go around, and that's a big problem when the world depends on exports. India isn't the only one banning food exports. These countries are also doing the same. There's a whole list of countries that have banned exports, which is good for people that have the supplies, but what about the countries that need them? Countries reliant on imports are going to suffer, obviously, right? So we need to be preparing for this. This is happening right now. Now, I don't know which country you're in, but regardless of where you're at in the world, there's going to be direct and indirect consequences of this. Now, in the United States, we're going to be somewhat insulated. So if you're watching this from the United States, we'll be a little bit insulated. However, it's going to affect us here as well. And I'm going to show you how. Now, first of all, it's already here and it's already happening. This isn't something that's going to happen in the future. It's already here. It's already happening. Of course, it's going to accelerate. Now, you can choose to be like this ostrich with its head in the sand. But I like to say that an ostrich can bury its head in the sand, but it won't stop it from being eaten. So you can choose to ignore this, but you can't ignore the consequences of it. So what we can see here, they're trying to frame this. I talked about this on my other channel, Market Disruptors. Go check out my other YouTube channel, Market Disruptors. It's growing. I'm doing daily news. I talked about this earlier today. The United Nations put up this article saying the benefits of world hunger. So it's actually good, turns out, they would have you believe. It's actually good for people to be starving. Now, I went to go grab this screenshot after I did the video, and the article's gone. But they're starting to try to gaslight you, if you will, telling you to get used to it. And even in the developing world, in the US, in Europe, they want to now do carbon food labels on food. Well, nope, turns out you've met your allotment of carbon, so now no more food for you. Or now you can't buy this food, you can only buy this food. Remember, control the energy, control the food, right? You see that. So this is coming to a place near you. And even we have here Nicole Kidman doing her public service announcement on TV eating bugs. You see what's happening here? In the United States, in Europe, they're using Nicole Kidman to show you eating bugs is cool. Hey, we should all be eating bugs. Hey, we should all be looking at our food based off of our carbon score. This is all getting ready to start regulating your food, your energy, and your money. So what are you going to do about it? Well, you want to secure your own food and energy. All right. Now, I've done a couple videos on my ranch. I bought a ranch. I'm securing this. We'll go ahead and link up the video for the ranch right here. And also, in case things happen, click on my newsletter, just throw your email in there, and I'll send you updates on what I'm doing to secure my food and my energy. So I'm looking at, setting up propane, dual fuel generators, setting up solar panels. We have animals on the farm. We have food we're growing right there. I'm working with other people to set up what's called a mesh to tell, and I'm going to be going through that a lot. So just throw your email in if you want me to get updates on that. But look, your country is doing this. Your country is trying this. Even in the United States, this is happening. They're talking about, we can't have people grow organic fruits and vegetables anymore because, if they're not genetically modified, they could spread and they could put the rest of the food in jeopardy. Or you can't raise livestock on your property without giving them all the medications that we want, because if they get sick, it could put all the rest of the food at jeopardy. So they're already starting to do this. And so you need to be aware of this. Now, if you don't have the ability to produce your own food, or at least get food directly from the producer, then you might be subject to subjugation. So what does that mean? Well, if you can't be sovereign on your own with your food, with your energy, then you might have to bow down to these insane policies because you have no other choice. I don't like that. I want to be sovereign. Sovereign to me means that I have the right to direct my life as I see fit in the direction that leads me to my own ends, free of coercion. Coercion is starve to death or eat the bugs. That's coercion. Either choice that I make leads me to their ends. I want to say, no, I'll just grow my own food. I'll have my own energy. I'll have my own community. I'll protect myself with our own protection. That's sovereignty to me. We're getting prepared for that. You might want to consider it as well. Like I said, if you want, there's a free newsletter. Just throw your email in. We'll keep you up to date. Stay tuned to this channel. Watch the other videos we linked about the ranches and stuff down below, some conversations I've had just to get you up to date. It's happening. It's here. Let me know what you're doing to be prepared for this. You can leave me a comment. Let me know. Please help me get this video out because YouTube's probably going to shadow ban it. So if you hit that like button, that helps. Subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Other than that, you can give me a thumbs down if you don't like the video, but at least leave me a comment and tell me why. That's what I got for you today. All right, to your success. I'm out. Since you've stayed to the end, I know you like this video, which means you're probably gonna really like this video right here and this video right here.